Hello guys and welcome to Chelsea Perspective, the membership section. I am Matt and I am your host for today's video. This is episode 2 of the Chelsea Stadium debate and this is all about Earls Court relocation. So let's get right into it. Obviously episode 1 we covered the Stamford Bridge rebuild and the information about that we have and the pros and cons to that type of decision and that move. Now we are looking at the exciting one for certain Chelsea fans, the Earls Court relocation. So Earls Court, this is on a depot site near to West Brompton station. If I'm honest, you've got 2 stations outside of it. So it is a 1.8 mile drive, 10 minutes from Stamford Bridge in SW5 rather than SW6, but very close to the stadium. I think it is 2.8 miles in total if you go across kind of through the buildings. But it could build a potential 80,000 seater stadium with possible expansion further, depending on what you want to happen. And transport links at Earls Court Station and West Brompton are available for this site, should a stadium decide to be rebuilt. Now, let's get into the pros and cons of this, because there's not really ever much information about that apart from something that might be in the cons section. So we'll discuss that when it comes to it. So the immediate pro to this move is that it allows a far bigger stadium and a better ability to expand in the years to come. It is undetermined. I mean, there's not enough research has been done on the site, so this is going off people's sources and people have analysed the site a little bit, but there have been talks that you could build a 100,000 seater stadium potentially on this site due to the ability to build up and across and down and everywhere. Obviously you have a little bit of restriction of the station and the station tracks, but it's a much bigger site compared to Stamford Bridge to do that on. So you've got the ability to build basically whatever you like, whatever design you are like. You're not restricted by a lot of different things up, down, to the sides. It also means design, you can probably be a bit more inventive with the design if you want to, because you have the space to maybe do something unique and something different. Whether it'll be good, look good or not is another question, but that's not what we're getting into in this series. The second close point, the big point for the pros, is it is still very close to Stamford Bridge. Yes, it's not in the SW6 postcode, but as we know, West London does not have a lot of free space. There are very limited free spaces to go, and I think this is an absolute, for me, perfect site in West London to move to. This is closer than what Battersea Power Station, which was a previous move that Chelsea were potentially looking at under the Abramovich years. This is closer than that. If you were able to look from the side of Stamford Bridge, you can see this site in the distance. So it's that close that you can see with the naked eye from Stamford Bridge if you were standing on the roof of the bloody thing. As someone has noted out, as you can see on Google Maps, we might put a little picture in right now, you can see the closeness between the 2 sites. Note that the other benefit would be there is no temporary move. You can play in Stamford Bridge all the way up to the point until the stadium's done. It means no Wembley moves, no moves to the London Stadium or any of them crap stadiums or any rival fan stadiums. We don't want that. There'll be none of that. You'll play in Stamford Bridge still for another 3-4 years until the stadium is built. There's going to be no overlaps with building. It's not like even Tottenham Hotspur where they had to play at Wembley for a year because it was being built rough. Most of it was built off-site, but then had to be built on the final bit. In the end, there will be none of that in this, so you can play at Stamford Bridge still for a long time and cherish the moments you get at Stamford Bridge before eventually moving into the new stadium. I'd argue it's much better transport links, something we didn't really mention in last video. Rebuild Stamford Bridge. The council are asking us to put some funding in to expanding Fulham Broadway because it is not the biggest station. With there being West Brompton, Earls Court and even Kensington nearby as stations, there are plenty of transport links to get to. It's a bit closer, it's slightly closer to central London. So people coming from kind of King's Cross, Paddington, Waterloo, them sort of areas, a little bit closer for you to get there. So I think the transport links are just better for this site if the stadium was built here. And as I said, the stadium will feel less cramped because there's lots of ground. There's possibilities that you can build other things around it. Obviously at Stamford Bridge right now, you've got the wall around Stamford Bridge where you've got the photos of all the legends. You've got the bit where you come in where you've got the photos of people. But there is more potential to be done on this new ground where more things can be done to make it feel at home and more inventive and just culturally nice things for us to do to make this Chelsea Football Club. And I think this is stuff that fans don't really pay as much attention to, but actually think about you can do. So that's the pros of the Earls Court area for the approval and decision to move to a new stadium. Obviously, as we mentioned, and as we'll cover in the next episode, the CPO have a massive factor into the decision making. They own the pitch, they own the stadium, the club name, and the club badge. So that means that if Chelsea are to move from Stamford Bridge, it's up to the Chelsea pitch owners to have the final say on that and the approval. So as far as I'm aware at the moment, the Earls Court site, the CPO are not currently in favour of that and would rather be at Stamford Bridge. And I do not see that changing in the near future, which is obviously a big problem that Roman couldn't solve when we were trying to move to Battersea. And I don't think the new owners, especially with there being controversy, tensions between the fans as it is, I doubt that there's going to be an easy solution to fix that problem, no matter how much you try and meet with the two parties and try and persuade them of the decision at this time. And the second problem is that currently the site is being targeted for residential development. There is a delay in that planning permission and there is problems with that development, which has given Chelsea a potential chance of swooping in and taking the deal. But obviously this is a government project where the government would like to have more houses. Obviously there is a massive housing crisis in the UK. If you are living here, you will know that. But we have limited time to actually get a deal done for this plot of land. So we do have to move quick in terms of getting this site approved if we are serious on building on this site. It will cost a lot more to build a whole new stadium from scratch on a new site. It is believed to cost Chelsea more in the short term. Now, obviously, we've spoken about kind of the long term of if Chelsea rebuild at Stamford Bridge and then have to rebuild again somewhere else, that will cost more than this. But in the short term, this will be more hefty for Chelsea in the short term. And could that impact Chelsea in terms of signings and other football aspects at the club, like kind of how you saw Arsenal, how you've seen at Tottenham a little bit? Who knows? We'll have to see on that. And obviously that is only the owners that know the true extent of how that will affect the club. It will take longer to build because you are building a whole new stadium from scratch. Obviously you have the planning permission problems and that which will take longer, the problems of the CPO. So this, if we are fully going for the Earls Court site, this could take easily another 3, 4, 5 years to get some of them problems ironed out and sorted, even if we do. That's even if we can get the site by that time. Finally, the one thing that people don't consider too much and the big questions is what happens to the Stamford Bridge site when we move. Obviously, it's a big real estate area, which the land itself was worth a fortune. Does the land get sold? Does the stadium stay as it is, and will it be used for other senses? Will the stadium be knocked down, the land be sold to someone else, and where does the money go? Does it go back into the owner's pocket? Does it get redistributed into the club? Does it go towards the new stadium? Who knows? I think that's something that I think is not so much of a con, but it's a question mark that I think needs to be discussed and needs to be figured out, because obviously I think it will cause people some sort of apprehension, especially the sentimental people that maybe even when this new stadium is built, they want to go back to the Stamford Bridge site because it is home. It is where Chelsea was born. I'm very sentimental myself. I'd like to be in that site if it was all fine and dandy. Unfortunately, there are problems with that site, so that means we do have to consider elsewhere. But that is the final kind of big con of the Earls Court site. For me, it's a promising development, and I think this arguably is probably the last promising development site that we have left in London, unless something happens and there is another big site that gets knocked down and available. But it's just so hard because London real estate is expensive enough as it is. West London is even more expensive, and it's just there's not a lot of it left. I think if you were to move in the West London area to a new place stadium, it would have to be out of London, which I think would be a bigger problem. This is the perfect location to be as close to Stamford Bridge as you want for them fans that are sympathetic to the old grounds. But we'll see how it goes. So, guys, that is the Earls Court relocation explained to you guys. Episode 3 will cover my final thoughts and what my preference of this is. I have tried my best to not stay my preference in these 2 episodes and ruin it. But I will also talk a little bit more about the CPO, their power, my advice to the CPO and my advice to you guys, how you want to change the CPO's opinion if that is your aim. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you refer all your Chelsea friends to a membership so we can keep creating wonderful wonderful Chelsea analysis series like this. I do want to do more of these long form series of multiple episodes on a particular subject. Only you guys can help me with that. So guys, refer your friends, get your memberships, and we'll see you again for episode 3. See you guys later and enjoy the rest of your days.